Somewhere in West Virginia, there is a man who won a Super Bowl. He saved not one, but two NFL franchises from collapse. He did everything the game asked of him. He waited, he sacrificed, he delivered when it mattered most. And in return, the NFL erased him from memory. No statue, no Hall of Fame induction, no documentary celebrating his contributions, just silence. The kind of silence that follows when an entire league collectively decides that someone no longer matters. His name rarely appears in conversations about great quarterbacks. When analysts debate the best players to wear the silver and black, his contributions are conveniently overlooked. When fans remember the 90s Raiders, they remember the struggles, the relocations, the chaos. They do not remember the man who briefly made them believe again. This is the story of Jeff Hostetler, a quarterback who gave professional football the best years of his life. A man who answered every challenge thrown at him, a warrior who carried a broken franchise on his shoulders until his own body shattered under the weight. And when he could no longer play, when the injuries finally consumed him, the game did not even bother saying goodbye. But before we explore how the NFL abandoned him, we must first understand what he endured to earn his place in it. Because Jeff Hostetler did not stumble into greatness, he crawled toward it, slowly, painfully, through 6 years of darkness that would have destroyed anyone else. And perhaps that is exactly why this story hurts so much. He earned everything twice and lost it all without warning. The year was 1984. A young quarterback from Hostetler, Pennsylvania, had just been selected by the New York Giants in the 3rd round of the NFL draft. For most players, this would represent the beginning of a dream, the culmination of years of hard work, the first step towards stardom. But for Jeff Hostetler, it was the beginning of a nightmare. The Giants already had their quarterback, Phil Simms, a Pro Bowl caliber player who commanded the respect of the entire organization. The coaches loved him, the front office trusted him, the fans adored him. There was no controversy, no quarterback battle, no opportunity for a rookie to compete. The job belonged to Simms, period. So what was Jeff Hostetler supposed to do? Accept his fate? Demand a trade? Complain to anyone who would listen? He did none of those things. Instead, he did something far more difficult. He waited. Year after year, he stood on the sideline holding a clipboard. He watched Phil Simms throw touchdowns. He watched Phil Simms receive the praise. He watched Phil Simms live the life that was supposed to be his. And every single day, he prepared as if his moment could arrive at any second. He studied film until his eyes burned. He trained until his muscles screamed. He memorized every play, every audible, every defensive tendency. Not because anyone asked him to, but because he refused to let opportunity find him unprepared. 6 seasons passed, 6 years of invisibility, 6 years of being nothing more than a name on a roster that nobody cared about. Most men would have quit. Most men would have accepted that they were simply not good enough. Most men would have let bitterness poison their hearts. But Jeff Hostetler was not most men. He believed that patience would eventually be rewarded. He believed that his moment would come. He had no idea how right he was, or how cruel the aftermath would be. December 1990. The Giants were fighting for their playoff lives when disaster struck. Phil Simms suffered a broken foot. His season was finished, and suddenly, after 6 years of waiting, Jeff Hostetler was thrust into the spotlight with absolutely no warning. The media declared the Giants finished. Experts predicted an embarrassing playoff exit. Nobody believed that a career backup could handle the pressure of leading a championship contender. He was 30 years old. He had barely played meaningful snaps. He was supposed to fail. But something remarkable happened instead. Jeff Hostetler played with the confidence of a 10-year starter. He led the Giants through the final weeks of the regular season. He guided them past the Bears in the divisional round. He outdueled the mighty 49ers in the NFC Championship. And then came Super Bowl 21, the biggest game in the history of the franchise. The New York Giants versus the Buffalo Bills. A backup quarterback who nobody believed in versus one of the most explosive offenses the league had ever seen. The game was a masterpiece of tension. Every possession mattered. Every mistake was magnified. The lead changed hands multiple times. And when Buffalo lined up for a 47-yard field goal that would have won the championship in the final seconds, the entire sports world held its breath. Wide right. The kick sailed past the goalposts. The Giants won 20-19. Jeff Hostetler was a Super Bowl champion.
For one brief moment, he had everything. The confetti, the trophy, the validation. 6 years of patience had finally paid off. The backup nobody believed in had just delivered the ultimate prize. But here is where the fairy tale ends. Because what happened next was not a coronation. It was a quiet, devastating reminder that loyalty in professional football is nothing more than an illusion. When the 1991 season began, Phil Simms was healthy again. And despite everything Jeff Hostetler had accomplished, despite winning the biggest game in franchise history, the Giants handed the starting job right back to Simms. No controversy, no competition, just a polite thank you and a return to the sideline. Imagine that for a moment. You wait 6 years, you win a Super Bowl, you prove to the entire world that you belong, and then you are told that none of it matters, that you are still just a backup, that the throne was never yours to keep. Something broke inside Jeff Hostetler that day. Not his talent, not his determination, but his belief that the Giants would ever see him as anything more than a placeholder. He realized that no amount of success would change their perception. He could win 10 Super Bowls, and they would still view him as second choice. So he made a decision that would alter the course of his career. He left New York. He walked away from the only organization he had ever known, and he signed with a franchise that was drowning, a franchise that desperately needed someone to believe in: the Los Angeles Raiders. When Jeff Hostetler arrived in Los Angeles in 1993, the Raiders were a franchise searching for identity. The legendary dynasty of the 70s and 80s had crumbled. The team had relocated from Oakland. Fan loyalty was fractured. The roster was aging. The organization felt directionless, clinging to past glory while the present slipped away. They needed a savior, someone who could restore the winning culture that had once defined them. Someone who understood what it meant to fight against impossible odds. Jeff Hostetler was exactly that person. In his very first season, he transformed the franchise. He brought stability to a position that had been a carousel of disappointment. He brought leadership to a locker room filled with uncertainty. He gave Raiders fans something they had been missing for years: genuine hope. And then came 1994. The season that should have cemented his legacy forever. Jeff Hostetler threw for over 3,300 yards. He launched 20 touchdowns. He posted a passer rating that ranked among the best in the league. He guided the Raiders to a 9-7 record and a playoff berth. For a franchise that had been wandering through mediocrity, this was a resurrection. Jeff Hostetler had delivered exactly what he promised. He had saved them. But if you've been paying attention, you already know what comes next, because this story was never going to end with triumph. The NFL does not reward loyalty. It does not honor sacrifice. It takes what it needs and discards the rest. And Jeff Hostetler was about to learn that lesson in the most painful way imaginable. The cracks began appearing in 1995, quietly at first, almost invisibly. The hits that Jeff Hostetler had absorbed over 12 professional seasons started extracting their toll. His shoulder ached constantly. His back tightened after every game. Injuries that would have sidelined younger players became weekly battles that he fought in silence. He never complained. He never made excuses. He simply taped himself together and walked onto the field, because the Raiders needed him. But the organization was already looking elsewhere. Behind closed doors, conversations were happening. Evaluations were being made. The franchise that Jeff Hostetler had resurrected was quietly preparing for life without him. Not because he had failed them, but because professional football treats aging quarterbacks like expired merchandise, useful until they are not, then forgotten. The 1996 season confirmed everyone's worst fears. Jeff Hostetler could no longer carry the weight. His body was breaking down faster than it could heal. He missed games. He struggled through pain that would have hospitalized ordinary men. And the Raiders, the franchise he had given everything to save, began the process of moving on. There was no press conference thanking him for his service, no emotional farewell game where fans could show their appreciation, no acknowledgement of everything he had sacrificed. Just a quiet exit, a door closing without ceremony. Jeff Hostetler played his final snap in the NFL, and nobody even noticed. What happened after football is perhaps the most haunting part of this entire story. Unlike most retired players who chase broadcasting careers or coaching positions, Jeff Hostetler chose a different path. He went home, back to the small towns of his youth, away from the cameras, away from the chaos, away from an industry that had used him up and thrown him away.
He did not write a bitter memoir exposing the dark side of professional football. He did not appear on talk shows complaining about how he was treated. He did not spend decades reminding everyone that he won a Super Bowl. He simply vanished, quietly, completely, as if professional football had never happened at all. Some might call this peace. Some might call it acceptance. But there is another word that fits just as well: erasure. The NFL moved forward without him. New stars emerged, new storylines captured attention, and Jeff Hostetler became a footnote, a trivia question, a name that younger fans have never even heard. When people discuss Raiders history, they talk about Ken Stabler and Jim Plunkett and Derek Carr. They remember the championships, they remember the controversies, they remember the iconic moments. They do not remember the man who arrived when the franchise was lost and gave them 3 years of stability. They do not remember the quarterback who played through injuries that should have ended his career. They do not remember the sacrifice. And perhaps that is the cruelest part of all. Jeff Hostetler did not fail the Raiders. He gave them everything he had until there was nothing left to give. He did not betray the Giants. He won their Super Bowl and never received proper credit. He did not quit when the odds were impossible. He waited 6 years and still believed. But the NFL does not measure value by sacrifice. It measures value by what you can provide tomorrow. And when Jeff Hostetler could no longer provide tomorrow, the league simply looked away. Today, he lives far from the spotlight, a Super Bowl champion, a franchise savior, a man who deserved so much more than he received. And the question that lingers, the question that should make every football fan uncomfortable, is this: if a man can win a championship, rescue a struggling franchise, sacrifice his body for the game, and still be forgotten within a decade, then what exactly does loyalty mean in professional football? Perhaps nothing at all. If this story stayed with you, if you felt the weight of what this man endured and how quickly he was discarded, then you understand why these stories matter. Subscribe to this channel, because we will keep telling the stories the NFL wants buried, the players who gave everything, the careers that ended in silence, the names that deserve to be remembered. Jeff Hostetler may have vanished, but today, for 18 minutes, he existed again. The only question remaining is whether anyone will remember him tomorrow.